All right, welcome to another episode of the NewyTechPeople podcast. On today's episode, we have Daniel Borg from Psyborg.
G'day.
Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, James. Hey, thank you for having me on. This is bloody awesome, mate.
Mate, good to have you. You've been around the Newcastle scene for more years than I have. I think you know just as many people as me, so long time coming.
Yeah, it's been amazing watching the changes that are happening. You know, like I went to Newcastle Uni and I've sort of been around for probably in the tech space or the graphic design and digital space for at least 22 years. Yeah. But my business is 17 years old, so this is my 17th year of running Psyborg.
We'll get in the growth of this scene in a second. For your business, Psyborg, mate, break it down for those of our audience that don't know who you are or what you do, mate. Bit of an overview of your career to date or your business.
Yeah, no, definitely. We like to help small to medium businesses be creative and thrive through design thinking.
Yeah.
So I'm big on design thinking and creativity. And so using the digital sort of tools that we have available as well as creative thinking, combining them and helping them thrive and grow.
Yeah. That's where the name came from, yeah?
Psyborg, like it's Psyborg, so not the like CY, like the Terminator Cyborg, and which plays on psychology. So my wife's a clinical psychologist, which is what inspired me for the name Psyborg.
Yeah.
When we first met back at uni, and but it's about creativity. So part mind is my saying, part machine. So instead of part man, part machine, part mind, part machine.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Mate, and you've been around Newcastle for a while. You mentioned before you've seen some changes. Any highlights or any big changes that you've seen in the Newcastle scene over the past 15, 20 years?
Well, definitely in the tech space, people like Growthwise and yourself have actually sort of conglomerated and helped bring that ecosystem together. So I've seen that happen, which wasn't happening before that. So which is fantastic. Before that, it was very smaller operators, I suppose. And I think Camplify, turning up in Newcastle as well, being an ASX listed company and the growth that they've had, sort of just putting Newcastle on the map from a tech point of view.
Yeah.
Before that, it was really villagey. And I suppose it still is now, which is one of its benefits, but it just feels a little bit more focused around tech.
Yeah, I think when I was starting out, Trent Bagnall and Craig Lambert with Slingshot.
Yep.
And then you had Steph and Alan at Growthwise, bringing that together. And then they worked really closely together. And then the early days of Slingshot spat out Camplify.
Yep.
You got Andrew Mears from Switched In early days as well. And then we've got Lift and Go, who are now having success internationally, and Mike from Decky. So they were those early days of that startup.
I remember when Slingshot started at those couple of conferences that they had. I think it was Dig or Digit.
Dig. Steph was involved with that.
That's right. That was when they sort of all come onto the scene, and that was when the NRMA pitch happened, and that's how Camplify got their legs. And I guess NRMA helped them sort of launch and go bigger. And so, it's been amazing to watch that grow, like being a young upstart at uni and deciding to stay in Newcastle, not go to Sydney like pretty much everyone else did.
Yeah.
I've been able to watch that wave and ride the wave as well.
Yeah, mate, I think that's an interesting point as well. I mean, you would have seen some changes there, but there was definitely a thought process that when you went to university back in the days, and I went to Newcastle University many, many, many years ago, that you had to then go away for work or to build a career. Especially in the tech space, and that's changed where you could do a software engineering and computer science degree there at Newcastle, then come out and get a job locally.
100%. And I think the internet's been the biggest catalyst there. Like when I was I studied mechanical engineering at uni and then changed over to graphic design just at the time when the internet was invented. So I was like late 90s, early 2000s. And I basically just went through the graphic design degree, having some internet experience from engineering. Like I did Comp 105, Comp 101, like a few of these computer science subjects, learning HTML, learning CSS, some like Fortran, all these sort of programming languages that engineers were forced to learn back then. But then going into graphic design, which had no tech or no sort of HTML programming at all, and then bringing that to the subject, I just flew and I just saw the opportunities come. And this is in the time when Redback was in town, which is really awesome. They were probably the biggest web design company back then. Then there was a company called Total Internet Center, TIC. And I worked for them. I got a job straight out of uni with those guys. And being a HTML programmer and graphic designer front end, it was all back in the days of tables and before divs come along. So learning that. And then when divs come along, having to reinvent that with CSS and then Flash. So I went in the Flash days. making websites fully flash, like interactive, which I loved. That was the best part. And then, you know, Adobe killing that, when they bought it from Macromedia, or Apple killing it, through, you know, just seeing all those changes. But being in Newcastle when all that was happening was pretty cool, like at the early days. And, you know, I think it was Matthew Friedman who owned Redback back in the day. Yeah, right. And he since sold it to a couple of guys. I know Dave's got it now, but I got to do subcontract work from him when I went out on my own, just see like, and it's awesome that they're still going, to be honest, because they're like one of the first.
Yeah, it's good to see Newcastle's success stories, right? And however much things change, some things stay the same.
Yeah.
And then companies that have been able to ride those waves.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be interesting in that part, actually, from your perspective. Yeah. Obviously, the digital space is continuing to change, but you've remained in Newcastle, still in business for 20 years. There's so many businesses go out of business.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe one of the biggest challenges, some of the biggest challenges you face over that, and riding the different waves and challenges?
I try to keep an agile mindset, which I know is like a bit of a buzzword, but it's just being able to adapt to change and sort of get over yourself, because you can get frustrated and go, I don't have to learn this new thing. Oh, bloody hell, you know, but you just got to go, nah, I've just got to learn it, just get on with it. And before you know, you're in it and you're learning it and you're working with it. So I think getting out of your own way is a big one. Yeah. So like just mindset, you know, like I know you guys talk about mental health now and then and stuff like that. Like just sort of being self-aware to know where you're getting stuck or you're pushing back on yourself, and just like getting over it and just going, like, just try. Like, so, and how that relates to agile is just basically moving fast, you know, failing fast. So, you know, you're trialing and error pretty quickly and learning. And now with AI, which is a whole new benchmark, I suppose we're all got to learn and adapt to, but in a way that makes that easier. You know, it's almost like this tool that's just helping us learn faster.
Yeah, and become more efficient, right? Like I think AI is a tool.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of talk about machines taking over, Terminator type.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that. But mate, for the absolute vast majority of us, like it's going to be a tool that's going to make life significantly easier, more efficient. And as you said, people have to learn to adapt and use these tools.
Yeah.
And the people that use those tools the best will probably have more success.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure it out myself now, because in the graphic design space, it's really disrupting as well. So we all know about ChatGPT, but there's things like Midjourney and DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, and I'm getting my head around that. I spent my whole Christmas holidays learning it and just thinking, well, young kids coming up are just going to use this off the bat, right? So we have to compete with that. Yeah. So you have to get in there and do it. And so to me, that's part of that mindset as well, as just going, well, I have to adapt or die, you know? And like once you do get your head around it and start using it and playing with it, all of a sudden it just becomes part of your artillery, you know, part of the tool set, and just expand from there.
Yeah. And ChatGPT or any of the other, you know, AI tools in around the visual design space, if used well and you stay on top of them, they're just going to create more efficiencies for you as a business. Think about times 10 years ago, you're like, fuck, I would have had to, you know, build this from scratch or something like that. And you can turn something out so quickly.
It's really funny you say that, because I've always loved to do 3D animation and sort of like special effects sort of stuff. Yeah. But to be able to stay in Newcastle, I didn't really have the market for that. So I never pursued it, because there's a massive learning curve to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So I always steered away and stayed with web design, because there was a market there, and with branding and logos and all that sort of stuff, there's definitely a market there. But part of my passion wanted to go down that route. But now all of a sudden, the fact that I didn't go down there and was patient, all of a sudden the tools are just coming to me now that I can actually use and create those things that are in my mind using AI. So it's sort of like you got to back yourself as well and just go and be patient and
invest the time. You've mentioned a couple of times already, like staying on top of new tools and learning and consistently like moving forward, no matter how your age, right? So it's not just when you're in school, coming straight out of university, or staying on top of your first job, but like that continual learning doesn't stop. If you want to be successful, that continual learning doesn't stop, right?
No, you just got to keep learning. I've got this thing called just-in-time learning, which is like an engineering term, just-in-time, where it's kind of like how products get made to order, just-in-time gets shipped out. I think the internet's given us just-in-time learning. So you get a problem, you got the internet there as a resource, like you guys talk about YouTube and podcasts and, you know, blogs. There, it's all there just to learn just in time when a new opportunity comes on your path. So I've written some blog articles about that, trying to like talk about the engineering world of just in time, how it applies to our own personal development, just in time. And I think that's amazing. Like this is the first time in human history that anybody's ever had that access to tools, everything at your fingertips.
It's access to information, right? Yeah, that's exactly right. That access to information. Accessibility is the biggest change, right? I think the AI tools is essentially the same, right? A lot of the AI that's been talked about at the moment, is very much based on the machine learning tools that have been around for quite some time.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's only been accessible by big companies with lots of budgets and really big data sets.
Yeah.
They've been doing versions of machine learning for over 10 years now. Yeah. But now with GPT out there now that GPT-3 and then it's going to be GPT-4 there's talk of, and then ChatGPT sitting on top. The accessibility for that for everyone now is just going to be the game changer.
That's right. Like my kids will just be using it straight off the bat. Like I probably won't let them right now, but they're sick of me talking about it. They think they're over it, which might have been a good thing. Because they just think it's some weird bloody concept, but they're going to naturally go through it once they're all in primary school at the moment. So
exactly. And OpenAI is, there's a really good API with that as well. So you get companies that are built on top of that. Like the way I said it would be similar to the internet. Obviously, the internet is core technology, and then people are building on top of that. Or maybe a better example is mobile. I think mobile came out early days. Only people that had a significant amount of money had that mobile. Then it become accessible to everyone. Everyone's building upon that. So
until it gets like a tipping point, and everyone has it.
I think it'll be really interesting, to ride that wave and see how that plays out as well.
100%, man. Like, that's why they call it surfing the web. You're just riding the wave, mate. Like, exploring and discovering and learning and adapting.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Normally don't get into it till the end around, the favorite books and podcasts and, go through space. It seems like YouTube's one for you. Is there any other real highlights for you where you're like, hey, that's been super helpful for you that you'd recommend to other people?
Yeah, and it's not tech related. A lot of the stuff I listen to is probably personal related, like psychology related. I love Dr. Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've heard of him, and he can be a bit polarizing for different people, but I love his clinical psychology, the way he views the world through that lens. And it's all about human behavior. And it helps me with my own behavior and my own understanding of myself, but also how other people behave, how clients behave, how customers behave. And, for me as a designer, you've got to think about the other person all the time. It's not about what I think. It's about you're putting the mind in the customer or in the consumer and think like you're trying to change their behavior basically. So psychology is a big part of that. So, and just I like how he unpacks like stories from old, like the Bible and and he just gets all those metaphors and all those just the symbolism out of it, and that makes you realize, well, this is how our society works now because of all of that. So it kind of helps you hack society in a way because you're sort of reading between the lines. Makes sense.
I agree. I've consumed some of his stuff. His book was
the 12 Rules.
The 12 Rules. It's deep. It's not an easy read.
No. I love it. He's got one before that, Maps of Meaning. Which is from a graphic design point of view or a designer, it's all about symbolism. And we all, like when you think about the English language, like characters on a page, letters, they're just symbols, right? That we've just been brainwashed to know they mean a certain thing. And that's the same with logos and symbols, like the Christian cross versus the Nike logo versus the McDonald thing. These are all symbols that have got stories from millennial that we don't even realize we're being brainwashed towards. And when I think I might be going off the wrong track.
No, I like it, man.
Passionate about it. But when you like that, so that book actually delves into the symbolism, like from ancient Greece and beyond. The narratives that are underlying everything we do is just so ancient, and we don't even know it.
I like it. I like it, mate. I'll pull that. You pulled one part just before that, psychology, because I think it's super important. I think it'd be applicable really to our tech audience. A lot of technology, and I think you can get caught up in the technology. Hey, I've built this technology. The code's super cleanly written. It's hosted in the right place, and it's really it's super available. But there's no need for it. Like I think there's there'd be thousands of apps in the App Store, really well written code, but no one uses it because there wasn't a user need for it. So that understanding of human behavior and how that ties into the technology. One's not great without the other. I think you need both of those parts to come together for something to be super successful, right?
Yeah, you need the need first. Like, you've got to be solving a problem. So that's like the top level. And then you need the user experience so that people feel like they're getting their problem solved through the process. And then underneath that is how it works and functions. Then underneath that's the code and the hosting and all that stuff. I guess, I mean, the cleanness of the code works from an internal development point of view with like commenting and structuring the code right. But I guess, there has to be an understanding of the whole stack of ideas and layers of what's required. Like my thing's about creative direction, but using the tools in tech to sort of create, like, bring that to life, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so, like, from that perspective, like, there's a tech company comes to you, really well-built product.
Yeah.
But your job is to how to communicate that product
to
the market.
Exactly,
and how to communicate, what that is. Is that like one of the biggest challenges you find?
That's where you start, like, why, it's that whole why thing, the Simon Sinek sort of thing, where it's like, what problem is this solving? Like, why does it make your life better?
Yeah.
And thinking about it from that customer's point of view, and then unpacking that into the brand and into the top line communication, like the headlines, just everything that people see first, and they either move towards or move away. So you're always trying to make a move towards, I guess. And that's psychology. It's like that's what I mean by changing human behavior. Like, whenever a new stimulus comes in, you either go away, like fight or flight. Yeah. So fight or go closer to it, I suppose. And so as a designer, we're trying to make people come closer to it rather than flight. Yeah. Like unpacking all of those variables, like there's so many variables. Yeah. And to find that right focus and that right direction, which is creative direction. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so let's say, I'll just apply it again to tech. Let's say a tech startup that somebody's building a product on the side, right?
Yeah.
Is it most important for them to get a product built that is well built?
Yeah.
Or at what stage in that process does engaging somebody like yourself in that process work best? Obviously, people run unlimited budgets.
It all happens, like in my experience, you get it at every stage. Like sometimes it's the end and they're reinvented it, or sometimes right at the start while it's an idea and they just want to suss out if it's, it's worth doing, pursuing. I think you got to just make sure you're solving the problem. So I don't think branding's that important at the start. I really don't. I think you need to just test and measure it with your friends or with a wider audience and just get that feedback. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it's called. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Just like, is this solving a problem? Do people want to use it?
Yeah.
And then I think it's when you go into a more mass audience that you need to find the common denominators, which then require graphic design and design thinking, I suppose. But in a way, that problem that you're trying to solve at the start is part of a design thinking process anyway.
Yeah.
So, you can engage a designer at any time, really.
Matt, I actually love that. Yeah. For a guy that runs a design company and whose life is built around, making that important, for you to come out and say, actually solving the problem is the first part, not just trying to sell design for, because I'm a designer, but something that can come in and actually acknowledge its place in that process. Obviously super important, but secondary to solving a problem, but then how you communicate that to a larger audience, massively important. That's where, the likes of
that's right. But a lot of the time a client might come to me and they don't even know what problem they're solving. So they have to get that right first. And so it's easier for me if someone comes to me understanding it.
Yeah.
It's super easy because we just have to work out how to explain it. I don't mean to say the word dumb it down, but you just got to make it really simple that anyone can grasp.
Yeah.
That's really what a good designer does, I think. A lot of people think graphic design is about special effects and making things look cool, but I think it's just about getting to the point. Less is more. Just getting rid of the bullshit and finding that core idea. And that's probably the hard thing to do, finding that core idea. And if you go back to what the why is, what problem you're solving, it's usually in there.
Yeah.
So that comes back to that factor of understanding that yourself for your own business or your own product.
Yeah. No, I really like it because I think that communication piece is massive.
Yeah.
And I think that the understanding between, human, customer audience or just people, and then the technology and that middle ground.
That's where I play.
Yeah. I think that's we do that as well, right? We play on the edges or the outskirts of technology.
Yeah.
We're not building technology ourselves. Yeah. I'm technical enough that I can understand.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
I can understand what people are talking about, but I'm not writing code myself. But understanding where between business and technology, and that's the sort of where we place. It sounds like a very similar experience.
Oh no, definitely. Like I've ridden the wave, like I said, HTML and then CSS and Flash came and gone, and then bloody WordPress. Like I'm big into WordPress now, and just having to adapt. But it's just a tool to me. Like just work out what I can do with it to solve the problems for my clients. And that comes back to like, what problem is it that you solve? Like people don't engage me because I can build a WordPress site. They probably engage me because I can unpack their problems and find out like what it is they're trying to achieve, and then give them steps to achieve that just by simplifying the process.
I think you're paying for not just the WordPress site, right? I've built a few WordPress sites, and as I said, probably not the most technical person in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Most people can swing up a website through Squarespace or Wix or something these days. It's cheap and it's easy to do. But what they're paying you for is like, how is this website going to actually communicate what I'm trying to deliver to the audience, right? Because if you get that part right, then you've actually got a chance of building something that's going to be successful, something that's actually going to reach your target audience and actually engage them, right?
100%. It's just about communication. Like people buy from people. They don't buy really. Well, I guess they buy from a website, but they're buying from the brand, which is kind of a personality, which harks back to a person, So, I think you've got to be careful not to get too caught up in the tech, but think more about the human interface of the tech.
For a designer, somebody like from your background, how do you view, the Wix and the Squarespace of the world? Obviously they're tools, but I would think there's some people out there that downplay.
Sometimes I'll get a client that wants me to work on their Squarespace site or Wix. And basically we'll give it a facelift or update the content for them. But the thing I don't like about them sites is it's a bit harder with SEO to sort of get them to go, because they're usually in their own ecosystem. And you sort of like, it's just hard to tinker under the hood, I guess, which is why I like WordPress. You can basically just do whatever you want to it. But I don't bag anyone out for it. It's just a tool, like I said, back to the start. So it's whatever their budget is at the time, whatever they want to do, and they're learning about their business through doing something like that. So and I'm happy I take on anything like that. I don't care. I don't get, what is it like? I mean, I use an Apple, like, the whole Mac versus PC thing. I'm an Apple guy, but I don't get caught up in like Wix versus WordPress or whatever. It's just a tool. I mean, look, we're all going to die, so who cares about shit like that?
No, completely agree.
Yeah.
Actually, I completely agree. I just think it's a tool. It's one of those things, in the recruitment world, my example would probably be Seek, right? Like, I can post a job ad and Seek and do it myself. I imagine from a design perspective, it's, I can just go to, Wix and swing something myself.
That's right.
The difference in quality between what, they might put it together themselves versus actually engaging someone in, understanding that how you communicate, what are you communicating, etc. How that design all comes together.
That's right.
Very different service. But it does serve a purpose for people at different stages in their
definitely in their business and personal brand or whatever it is they're trying to do. Like it helps me. Like we just got another website the other day, and we're taking it from, I think it might be Wix, and we're rebuilding it in WordPress. So in a way, it's better because we got the content. We're just sort of giving it a facelift and add new imagery and making it cooler and responsive and all the things you have to do for a modern website. But there's just different paths for people's different journeys, I guess.
I completely agree. I think Canva played a similar role in the design space as well, right? Photoshop, obviously, the premium tool. Or any of the Adobe suites, the premium tool, but the learning curve's a lot steeper, right? Canva's introduced more people to design. And more accessibility.
It's so funny. Like it actually does help us. Like at the start, you might have got a bit antsy about it, but clients eventually realize it's not about the tools, it's about the thinking. And that's what we learn at uni. Like we did 4 years and you're just learning how to think. You're not really learning how to design. Like we had, which is design in a way, but we had all different types of skill sets in there, people that couldn't illustrate versus people who could. And, there's people that couldn't illustrate at all, but they're like leading advertising agencies right now just because they've learned how to think. And I think that's what uni's really is about, just like understanding yourself and how you learn, and then how you can research and how you can get better and improve and change the world.
No, I completely agree. We did tend to touch on this in the vast majority of our podcast, the importance of university and a career journey. It sounds like you had a really good experience, and it was a experience around learning how to learn.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of had a bad experience at the start, but really bad. I did industrial engineering at TAFE, like out of high school, which is, people don't even know what industrial engineering, but Tim Cook's actually a trained industrial engineer.
Yeah, right.
So what it's about is process design and like how to build a factory that is efficient.
Yeah.
So I did that at TAFE, and that was when BHP was here.
Yeah.
So they had an industrial engineering course just for BHP.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't care about BHP. I was good at industrial design in high school, so making desks and tables, being creative, but a bit technical with tech drawing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought industrial engineering was just a continuation of that.
Yeah.
But I got there and it was totally different. I'm with all of these blue collar guys that work at BHP, but I got there and done it. I did the diploma, associate diploma, and then that got me into a mechanical engineering degree.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mates who are in industrial engineering went over to mechanical engineering, so I sort of just followed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got like this I don't know what do you call it, like an internship sort of traineeship sort of thing with an engineering company called Cantac East, which was a joint venture on Kooragang Island. And we were building the shipping stream. So, the conveyor belts out there, the second shipping stream. And I was basically just like an admin assistant to all the engineers, like helping them with the plans. And like, I think the highest role I got there was like organizing a modifications crew. So we'd have boilermakers and we'd take it to the site and we'd weld cleats on and erect trestles, and I was like in charge of that while I was studying mechanical engineering at uni, which was really cool. Like I love the work, but it just got way too hard for me, and I just didn't love engineering. So anyway, that's when I met my girlfriend Adele, and she was studying psychology at the time. She said, just change to graphic design. That's what you're into, because I was always illustrating, doing murals, just having fun with like doing surfboard graphics and skateboard graphics and stuff. And then I just went to the uni course, the graphic design department, and they said, show us your portfolio. I showed them all these murals and all this stuff I've been doing, and they said, yeah, you're in. Got in there, and then it's just been flying ever since. Like, but the coolest thing was that bad engineering experience I had. Like, I've learned a lot of engineering techniques and processes that I apply to a business and to graphic design, and that's helped my business immensely over the last 17 years or whatever. But so I did have a bad experience at the start. There was a lot of like probably crisis sort of stuff there, because having to give up something I've done a diploma, I'm working, I'm in there, and then having to give all that away and start something new. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like that mental health wise, like telling your parents, because my dad's got an engineering sort of background and he wanted me to be in that world. Just, doing that. And
there's a lot of pressure at an early age, right? I think, deciding what you're going to do for a career, and that's why it's positioned sometimes. You're going to go to university to, pick which degree you're going to do, because that's going to be a career for life. I think the pressure on people at that age is just ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Because the vast majority of us, change careers these days. So, it's what's long gone are the days where, hey, I'm gonna do an apprenticeship at age 16 and that's my career for life.
Yeah, no, it's going to change so much. But like just that angst of telling your parents and then like feeling like you're giving up on something, because I sort of had that mindset that you just don't give up.
Yeah, but I think the biggest part that I'm hearing there as well is like, although it's a negative experience going through that, it's also a positive experience from the perspective of you learned what you don't like.
Mate,
and I think from a career perspective, a big part of that is you learning what you do like, but also what you don't like. And, sometimes optimizing your life is just about removing the things that you don't 100%. Like or don't work for you, rather than adding something new.
If you have like a bird's eye view of your life, looking back, like as you get a bit older, you get to do that more. And you sort of, like Steve Jobs says, you join the dots going backwards sort of thing, and you realize what happened, why. You go, that was the best thing ever, really. It really was. Like at the time in that, a 2 or 3 year process of really trying to rediscover yourself and work it out, it was hellish. It really was. But then when I did get in design and made that choice, I got like a HD average for the whole 4 years of the course. And then I got targeted out of uni and I started my business, and it's just been like a slingshot. Like I was stretching myself back for so long, not knowing what I wanted and sacrificing. And then when you finally made that choice and let it go, it's just flew,
I like
and
it.
Still flying now, like just try not to fall, just fly.
Or hit anything when you're up there.
That's right.
I like it. I think no person's journey is the same. And for somebody to, there are a lot of small businesses to go out. You would have faced so many challenges through those years. And for you to stick through and continue to have success, it's a testament, obviously, to the work you've done.
Yeah, mate, it's been a real honor just to be able to stay in Newcastle and serve so many clients and sort of build a reputation here. And the fact that your reputation is everything, you know, your credibility. Like I've having this new thought lately more and more, like it's the same pool of people around you all the time. They're always here. It's not like new people are coming and going. They are, but there's sort of like this stagnant group of people, and you only get to know them more and more, or you stuff someone and you shoot yourself in the foot, and all of a sudden that spreads like wildfire. So to be able to be aware of your personal brand and your own reputation is crucial and critical. And
definitely Newcastle. Yeah, like I think that's one of the reasons I like, you know, operating a business and recruiting in Newcastle is the fact that I feel like Sydney and the bigger cities are more transactional. It's like, you know, people, it's just transactional. It's about you know, speed, and it's about, you know, who can do it the cheapest. Yeah. And people can mess up in Sydney and just be fine with it because they're like, oh, dude, I'll stab someone in the back, or I'll, you know, I'll do a shit, you know, job for somebody, but it doesn't really matter because I'll go to somebody else in Sydney. There's so many other opportunities, and that word won't ever get around because it's so big.
Yeah, it's just such a mass.
Whereas Newcastle, completely opposite, like from a recruitment perspective, super relationship driven. So it's about building relationships, building trust, and if you do good, word gets around. Yeah. And if you do poorly, word gets around.
That's right. Yeah, so no, definitely.
I think it holds everyone to a higher standard as well, which is great.
Yeah, it's really good, and it just means you have to be aware of everything you're doing, and like. It can get hard. Like there's just so many cross pollinations, and everyone knows everyone. And just, I guess when you're authentic and you're credible, like you sort of, you do what you say you can do. That's the biggest thing. Like whenever I scope a project out, I try to make sure I ask heaps more questions at the start than anything, because the last thing I want to do is under deliver, you know, make sure the expectation's right. Because that's where one of the credibility factors will just fall away, you know? So it's so important to articulate everything back to people and make sure that we're all on the same plane, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a bit of a design process there, right? And how you started out. Be interested in that, especially, let's say somebody was looking to start a business, right? Yeah. Or looking to start a brand. And what's the first 5 steps? How do they go about it if they're going to either do it on their own or come to you? Maybe let's start with if they're going to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Are there any tips you give somebody to, hey, I'm starting a little business. I don't have a big budget, but I want to get a brand out and a logo out there to start with. How do I go about that?
I think don't come up with a name straight away.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think, oh, what's the name? What's the name? I think come up, like find out that why again, like what is the problem that you're trying to solve and why does it help my customer?
Yeah.
Because when you brainstorm that and understand what that is, the name can come from that. And all of a sudden you're communicating that from the get-go.
Yeah.
So it's not what it is, it's why it helps.
Yeah.
And then that starts to tell your story. So that's what I like to do when I run brand workshops, like unpack that. I mean, if someone comes to me without a name, that's the best because I can start right back to the core root and then sort of unpack everything. So I think don't just go to a name that you think's cool or whatever. Just try and think about the story and the your why, and then that will help you tell the story and build a brand quicker. Because if you are solving a problem, and that works for people, then that story will get told, and then the word of mouth will flourish. And especially if you get that name right, and then obviously the look and feel from that. So the logo design will sort of stem from that. The brand colors, the color palette style guide, the typography, the image. So it all sort of comes back to that why, you know?
Yeah.
So just getting that right first is the start, I think.
Is there any hints and tips you give somebody when it comes to, hey, I've got my name, I think it communicates a problem I'm solving.
Yeah.
How am I going to design my logo? Am I going to Upwork or Fiverr or something? Or am I, what color am I picking? Is there any hints and tips? I don't know. Any do's or don'ts?
Even my logo design style is very less is more.
Yeah.
So I like to play with typography, but tweak it. So, which is what you've done with NewyTechPeople, right? It's a typographic logo. Yeah. And I've got to ask you a question about this. Is that all right if I ask you?
Yeah.
Is that Vision Streetwear?
No, it's the original logo is straight out of Compton. So
okay, well that's Vision Streetwear. You know Vision Streetwear?
No, I don't know.
Oh, it's a skate brand.
Yeah, right.
It's like 80s. I'm a mad skater.
Yeah.
So it's like Vision, which is like that, then Street is like that, and then Wear's underneath it, and you've got it like that outside.
Yeah, the straight out of Compton logo. Essentially, I think when I first started it, I went to somebody, I think it was on Freelancer maybe, and I was like, here's a straight out of Compton logo, here's my words, can you make it, put this in that?
Yeah.
It cost me, I think, $5 or $10, and my logo was done for $10.
Yeah, well, I mean, typography solutions are great, because it's just what it is, right? So I like to then tweak the typography, which is what you're doing with the tech, you're just putting in a block.
Yeah.
And like you just got to think about big brands like Nike, McDonald's, Sony, Apple. It's just such a simple.
Oh yeah, like I'm
so simple.
Big believer in simplicity, and for us it was like tech and the three words described to what we do, right?
Yeah.
And the people part was the core of that because we're a people business.
Yeah.
And then black and whites really work for us because I think black and white allows so much. You can add a pop color here and there. But yeah,
it's black and white's awesome. It's mystery. Like I like black for the mystery side of things. But yeah, so just less is more, typography based solution. If you want to put a symbol with it, just keep it really simple. But a symbol won't work straight away because people have to get to know the brand. So that's why the words are more powerful at the start, you know. But I like to try and back to that why aspect. There'll be some type of metaphor that explains that why. Yeah. Then you can bring that into the typography. So say it might be a tick that you might put into the shape of one of the letter forms.
Yeah.
There's something that just makes that typography unique.
Yeah.
That talks to that problem that you're solving. Yeah. And I think that's like the ultimate logo for me. Like I spend a lot of time to get that for my clients. So if you look on my website, there's probably like 100 logos on there, different brands, and they're all very simple like that. Some of them are really iconic where it is an icon.
Yeah.
But that's probably because the clients already had that and I just sort of stylize it and make it look cooler or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, less is more.
Yeah.
I think that's the right answer for everything in life.
Yeah. I think especially early days with, building a tech startup in particular, I think, as you said, less and more, I think, a lot of people wasted a lot of money, myself included. I built a website back in the days and spent quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And then an offshore dev team before, and then just went back and built it myself. But you can over-engineer and overthink things to start with. Whereas, a lot of the startup advice these days is like build an MVP. What is like the least you can actually build to find out whether you're solving a problem? The logos, again, like I feel like there's no point investing in somebody like yourself when you don't have a product or figuring that out yet.
So what I'm really about is brand, not logo. Yeah. And brand isn't a logo. Everyone thinks it's like it's the experience and beliefs and that you associate with a logo. That's what a brand is. So that's why I talk about the why and the story.
Yeah.
So is when you can unpack that, you're telling the story in all your touch points. So from your business card to your website to your proposal to your I don't know, the way you answer the phone.
Yeah.
They all should talk back to your why. And then if you've got a nice logo that represents your values, I suppose, then all of those interactions, that's building the story and they associate with the logo.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to do for clients. It's not just design a logo. It's like
it's
fit it all into that context. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that brand experience, as you said, like your logo can say you are one thing, but it doesn't matter what you say. It's how people.
It's all the intangibles. Yeah. Like the brand is actually what other people think of you, not what you think of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're trying to hack that. That's what because the sense of control that you do have as a business is you're trying to get your own perspective out into the marketplace for people to latch onto and then use in their own word of mouth. Mm. So you're trying to hack which is back to that behavior sort of aspect I was talking about with psychology. So you're sort of like trying to project that out there so that you hope people grab on. And if they're getting a good experience from you, an authentic experience, so it's no bullshit, that will just run like wildfire for you.
Yeah. No, I like it. And then so if that was, somebody doing it for themselves, the only real difference is somebody's coming to you, you're really workshopping that why I'm with them to start with, you're helping them get that part right to start with. And then everything floats off the back of that.
Like the graphic design comes off the back of that. So I've probably run about 30, 40 workshops. So I started taking workshops seriously about 2 years before COVID.
Yeah. So
I had like 2 years of running a lot of workshops at my studio at Caves Beach. And then when COVID happened, I was doing them all on Zoom. I did a few, like I did Galar Cyber on Zoom.
Yes.
That was one of...
Shout out to Cole.
Shout out to Cole, And now I've got my new studio, which is a bigger space and it's dedicated, like the other one was at home. I just love to run workshops. Like I just have heaps of fun. And it should be fun. Like you don't want to get stale and boring and tedious.
Yeah.
It's got to be sparking and firing,
Speaking of that, the Zoom versus that, I've sat through many workshops in my day.
Yeah.
I definitely find those in-person ones more engaging.
Yeah.
I think workshops are significantly harder to run virtually, right?
Yeah.
Has that been your experience?
Yeah. I mean, it is a workshop, but it's a lot of the time it's one-on-one. So workshops sort of tend to think more than people, but we're kind of workshopping ideas. That's why I like to use that term. But yeah, there's nothing beats us sitting in the physical space. You go and have lunch. Like I'm at Cavesy, which is near the Caves Resort, and there's a few new restaurants around there. So we might spend 2 hours workshopping, then we'll go to the resort and have a lunch. And
there's a good feed there.
Yeah, he just continues there, and you come back and you basically wrap it up. And to me, it's about, as a designer, you've got to kind of get inside your client's head. Yeah. So you're trying to like really get close to them and become like a mate, because you've got to see how they're thinking and then put yourself in their client's head. So that's what I think the workshop experience is the quickest way I can build a rapport with people and help me unpack it, because there's still a lot of trial and error after that. Like once we start giving you concepts, which is based on the outcomes of the workshop, it's still not going to be perfect, but you've got that data that's come out of the workshop to then talk back to and go, is this what we said in the workshop or not? And so that's a really good metric or a way to sort of keep us on the right track.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. You're a busy man, obviously, working with multiple clients on the service-based industry. Obviously, they can get pretty hectic. I know that. Working on that, managing your own business, how have you stayed on top of that over the years? Is there it sounds like you do a lot of personal development work.
There's an engineering part of that, so when I did mechanical engineering and worked in the engineering space, Excel spreadsheets was massive, almost like dashboards that were custom built. So I remember working with an engineer and showing him his Excel spreadsheet of all of the different material parts and how they all worked on the shop. And I'm just like blown away at the level of complexity and detail of that spreadsheet. And that stayed with my mind when I started a business. So I've set up my own dashboards in Excel, which sounds a bit like old fashioned or something, because I'm not using something like HubSpot or some sort of fancy CRM. But I love Excel because I can totally customize it to whatever. Yeah. And I'm big on time management, and I basically record every hour of every day. So even right now, this is in my timesheet as marketing. I'm in a podcast, and that gets associated into other spreadsheets, and I get average hours for everything I've done. Yeah. So every kind of project I've got, from logo design to web development to web maintenance to public speaking to photography, I've got an average hour because I've got 17 plus years worth of data. Yeah. And I keep it all in there, and they all talk to other spreadsheets. So, with macros and different cells talking to cells, I can get a year-on-year percentage. So I'm always keep myself accountable to my data. Yeah. And basically data is king when it comes to that. It just helps keep the confidence. Yeah. So I have about 40 projects going at any one time. That's my average. Yeah. It can go down to say 15. It can go up to 60, but it always sits around 40. And that's all in a work in progress spreadsheet, for example. So I can get a view of everything that's happening right now. And that links to a particular project spreadsheet, which then goes to a completed. So the whole of 17 years worth of projects are there. And I can get obviously all the different statistical metrics from that. Beautiful. And that just helps me understand, like, I can see my business at a minute's notice of where I'm at with all my projects. Yeah. So it gives you confidence, and it gives you about Pareto, like priorities. Yeah. So I just apply that principle all the time when you're looking at that data. So what's the most important? What's the 30% that solves my 70%? Yeah. All that sort of stuff. It's engineering.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, mate. Yeah. It's always everyone's got a different approach. Right? Yeah. You're obviously technical enough to be able to build that out for yourself as well. But I think the accountability is a big part, especially in a small business, or if you're keeping yourself accountable, you don't have,
oh mate,
it might be your wife, but you don't have, it's another, business exec or somebody coming down or keeping you accountable. I think that type of approach that you just called out is really solid.
It is, mate. Like, I review it every week because I have to enter in from my weekly timesheet into my project timesheets. Yep. And I get like a working on the business versus a working in the business sort of result every week. And you get it, you're accountable for that. You go, and when you look at that over time, you go, geez, I'm spending like maybe 15 hours on average on the business and I should be making at least 25 in the business. So you always get accountable to that, and it's like a competition against yourself.
That's good, because I imagine there'd be times as well where you work too much in the business, and then you're really busy, and then you find out, oh, maybe I've got a lack of work coming up because you haven't done any work on the business.
Yeah. Like, I find what gets me work, that's probably the biggest thing. Like, I'm in Caves Beach, so I'm not really like in the tech scene or whatever. Yeah. So I use social media a lot. Like, I post pretty much every day now. That's been part of my new strategy. Yeah. It's not about the likes or the comments you get. It's just that people see that you're active and you're doing work. Because then when I I don't know if I'm going off tangent, but when I meet with someone, they'll tell me about a project that they know I've done, and I know that they haven't liked it or commented, but they do see it, so it actually works.
Yeah.
And it sort of gets you in people's brains, so that I think what my point is you've got to stay relevant, and you've got to be showing that you're active, just to show that you exist and that you're doing things. But what was the point we were talking about? Because I've actually just gone off skew.
Oh, really? I was in around that productivity piece, right? Like how you're working on the business versus in the business.
Yeah, so that's right. So I've had to spend a lot of time on social lately because I've got my new studio and I'm sort of going into a bit of a growth kick. So I'm having to do that. So that's working on the business rather than in it.
Yeah.
But I've got another designer that works for me, so she's holding that for. But I put that back into my systems and I can track that. And I go, well, now it's time. I've done so much. Now it's time to then go back into and focus on another space. So just that measurement keeps you accountable. No. Like you can't improve what you can't measure.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. Mate, I think we've tackled a lot. We've tackled, where you go to for your information. We've tackled, your productivity tools. Is there any other tool or that
It's funny. I've been using Slack a lot, which I know everyone uses, like especially in the tech field. But I started using it like in the middle of COVID, and I just couldn't get it. Like But I'm also using Discord. You've heard of that, and that's like Slack, but you're kind of talking to the server all the time.
Yeah.
And
what do you use Discord for?
Mid-Journey.
Yeah.
So to generate, it's just amazing. It's like talking to a robot all the time, and they give back. And but you can use it with there's a couple of other AI tools that are using it too now, so I'm starting to use it for that. But I find Discord is kind of like Slack. Yeah. It's just like a command prompt. It's just kind of like command prompt, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of Discord communities that popped up during COVID. It's all in and around the NFT scene. Yeah, the NFT scene was massive. They were massive in the Discord communities.
I went down that rabbit hole. I didn't invest, but I was creating some.
Yeah.
And I sort of did a minimum viable product, and I'm glad that's what we did, because we didn't go all in, and I'm glad because it was the right move with what's going on. But so Slack is awesome. Like just kind of like I like the Slack bot. You know, because it is like talking to an AI in a way. And like I use it now to brief my designer. So basically we've just got a running brief going there, and she just checks in, and that's just cut down all this time where I'm not having to like stop and start. And
I like it.
Yeah, but Slack's amazing. Yeah. Like I got my head around it, finally it clicked.
Oh mate, you mentioned earlier on this day, like earlier on in our call today, it was just about, new tools will come. You figure out what works for you, what doesn't, what's beneficial to you, what's not. But you have to give a lot of them, maybe not all of them, but you have to give a lot of them a try to find out whether they are going to work and they're going to be beneficial for you. And if they do, going down that rabbit hole and deep dive.
I love that word, rabbit hole. That's what it feels like.
It feels like that with learning a new technology. It's staying abreast of that. So it's really good.
Yeah, mate, it is just a wave that you got to keep riding, and like living out at Caves Beach. It's like you look at the ocean every day, you just see that horizon, and you just realize how small we really are, and not let things affect you that much, like it's just ride the waves and paddle out again and pick another one. And
I like
it's it's not taking life too seriously. I think that's the biggest thing I'll take away from any of this stuff.
Yeah, beautiful, mate.
Yeah,
I think that's a nice way to finish up, man. It's a good finishing message.
I appreciate it, mate. Like, it's awesome what you guys are doing, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here, mate. It's fantastic.
No, it was good. Very thankful to have you, and hopefully some of the Newcastle community that didn't know who you are now do.
No, fantastic.
So again, thank you, Daniel. Oh, quickly, if people do want to find out a little bit more about who you are and your design studio.
Like my website, psyborg.com.au, PSY, like psychology.com.au, borg.com.au. That's the same on socials, and Daniel Borg for LinkedIn and stuff like that. Yeah.
We'll link them all up in the show notes, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks, mate.
Done.